I can go turn on a city, be up and running and be live in 90 days and be profitable in 2 years. Awesome. Well, now I can be up and running in 1 day and be profitable in 2 days and be in any city we want to be in. That's game changing. We anticipate that local TV broadcasts, like linear TV, morning TV shows, and print newspaper are going to be like, what do you got, 2 to 5 years. If you can customize the content people want to consume and you have a database of that content can become audio, it can become video, and there's no reason why we don't have an AI avatar providing you the morning news in a 2 to 5 minute segment every day on 20 different platforms.
Welcome back, newsletter nerds. We are joined today by Ryan Heafy, co-founder of 6am City. Ryan's like one of 5 people that I've really wanted to have on as a guest since like day one of like thinking about this podcast. He scaled 6am to like 2 million subscribers, 400 plus local newsletters. And what I find really interesting is they are doing a bunch of wild stuff on top of that. Like they've got this like newsletter ad network thing. They've got a done for you newsletter service. They're doing a bunch of stuff with AI generated content, which is really cool, or the devil, depending on your point of view. And they're doing a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, I'm super excited for this one.
Yeah, I think one of the things that got me excited about it was I saw you guys just made a big acquisition, and we don't get a lot of excitement in the newsletter space. So can we just dive right into that? So 6am City acquired Good Daily, which is an AI-driven local newsletter platform. So could you just walk us through that? How did that all come about? And, what's the plan there?
Yeah, I think one of the things as a newsletter-based company at scale, one market, if I was Morning Brew and I was operating in one primary newsletter every day, or 1440, I mean, these brands have now scaled a few newsletters. It's very easy to take a person or a couple people and produce your content, and someone handles growth and all these other aspects of sales and fulfillment. But we're already doing that in 30 something cities, 30 newsletters a day, editorial staff, boots on the ground, in market, sales teams, and all that is a lot. It's a lot of overhead. I mean, we're talking, $1 million a month or more and just people, right? And so how do you go and expand into more cities in America? And how do you do it in a more efficient way? And as AI or just technological innovation has come about, how do we get there? And it's a build buy decision, right? Am I going to go try to learn and build all these tools and maybe work with the right developer who understands email and deliverability and news? Well, we found a unicorn. Matthew Henderson was very clearly an expert in deliverability. His background made him as such. He was creating local newsletters with a very similar core principle as us. We always wanted to figure out, how do you connect with the community, give people a quick digest, 5-minute read, conversational in tone. How do you spend your time, talent, and treasure in a community? No, we don't need to be the investigative journalists. There's other people out there that do that. We want to add value, drive economic impact. So the principle and vision that Matt had was, making things accessible in a community. It aligned. Well, we start seeing it and go, wow, that's really interesting. This person's putting out 400 newsletters a day. How the hell is he doing that?
It's just him, right? To confirm.
Just him. Yep.
That's wild.
Yeah, single individual person, amazing developer, background in email and deliverability, solved a problem for his grandparents and said, hey, I'm going to give you a newsletter so you know what's going on in your local community. They had no idea he built it for them. And they're like, wow, this newsletter I get every day is really cool. And he's goes, well, wow, I can scale that. The newsletter didn't align 100% with our editorial ethics policy, but it has to do with sourcing and things that you can easily change and evolve, but the tech stack made sense. And so Matthew had built an audience development engine, or app, for lack of a better term here, is a way that he's able to go source, qualify, ensure a high quality subscriber is coming into the list from the beginning, track that subscriber cohort analysis in a way more automated manner, churn our lists to drive super high engaged, healthy lists. That's a win, because that's not easy to do. And it's not easy to grow your audience at a low cost. I mean, we were spending, $4 or more a subscriber to grow sports audiences, and 75 cents to a dollar to grab just to grow our local email subscriber base. And Matt comes in with a solution that's way more effective and netting a higher engaged subscriber. That's pretty cool. That's probably the proprietary part that we picked up. The other piece was, how do you source content in a community that actually adds value to folks and packages it in a manner that's in line with your editorial standards and does it automatically. And so the tools that Matthew built allow us to turn on any new city in America in 5 minutes. And it used to be that we would turn on any new city in America in 90 days. And we would brag about that. Like, hey, for $250,000, I can go turn on a city, be up and running and be live in 90 days and be profitable in 2 years. Awesome. Well, now I can be up and running in 1 day and be profitable in 2 days and be in any city we want to be in. That's game changing. And so we are optimizing for what the product looks like now, leveraging the tech that he created, making it more aligned with our brand standards. We are designing for the consumer, opposite of what most media companies do. And they have a journalist that creates content that they think a consumer might care about because they care about it, which doesn't necessarily work to align with your audience. And so we've learned a lot over the years. We're taking our lessons learned at 6 a.m., our sales talent, our revenue fulfillment process, our strategic partnerships, combining that with the technology infrastructure and the talent. Now go 1+1=5, and go way the hell faster in growing both our audience, our market reach, and our revenue potential. In just 30 days or so, it's already showing materially positive results.
What would be the one thing you're most excited about? Is it with AI and with this acquisition? Is it the content creation? Is it the growth? Like, what aspect of the AI was the thing that when you looked at his business, you said, we have to own this?
I think the biggest thing is it expedited our ability to deliver things that we've been wanting to work on or we're building elsewise. The less obvious, less sexy parts are the cool parts. Like, man, we have all these people creating social media content every single day. They're literally going to our newsletter and then they extract a piece of it, they match it with an image and a social and like create a social post, and then it goes out. Well, it's all automated now. We have a developer, we know what we want. This is the source, this is the output we desire. Let's create the process efficiency. I don't need to have 20 people doing that anymore. That's great. That lets our editorial staff focus on the higher value stuff that keeps people involved. I think Adam Ryan at Workweek, I think, talks about this a good bit, but like, you need to have this human relatable, actual value add element. You cannot just all AI. And like, there's nowhere in our plan to just go build straight AI. Like, AI is a seed tool for us from a content perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be able to get this stuff, so get an infrastructure set up so that we can then layer in the human element around a profitable product that's sustainable. And then you really are adding value in a market. And so we are more focused on the process efficiency behind the scenes. How do I deliver to my editorial person every morning? Here's the top 50 headline stories, things that surfaced from all these different sources overnight that you want to pay attention to today. And then they can go curate. But why spend 4 hours curating when the curation can be done for you? That's the wins. Like, it's not just that, hey, the newsletter is pumping out something and it's all done by AI. And to be clear, it's not going to be all done by AI. I think people don't understand how humans can create the infrastructure for a piece of content and AI can fill in the data points versus just, it's not like a RSS feed of shitty AI content. It's like editorial lens and the lessons we learned. AI subsidizes that information to enrich it a certain way, and then you share it. It's really the operational efficiency that matters.
I love that. You said you're up to what 400 and something locations now, and you can spin up a city in a couple of minutes or a day. How do you make that decision then about which cities to? I guess firstly, which cities to like go into that you're not currently in, and then secondly, like if it's going kind of okay when you're there, like how do you make the decision whether to like invest more into that or not, and like build out like ads and all that kind of stuff.
Let me give you a backwards explainer on that. So a few years ago, we decided to triple the size of the company. How do you go from 7 to 21 cities overnight? And our model at that time cost about $250,000 to launch a new market in year one. And we just made bets. And we used to say, hey, we only go to cities, we go to non-NFL cities. If it has an NFL city or an NFL team, the city's too big. So we go to the ones that are smaller, where there's a strong pride in place, where people are excited about their community. We know we thrive there. Well, advertiser demand said, hey, y'all aren't in all these cities in America. We really don't want to target just those 7 you have in the Southeast. Like, you need to be in a bigger footprint. And so we said, what the hell? We got some capital. Let's go expand. And so we did. Well, if you can do the math real quick, 14 cities times $250,000 a year, the editorial staff, the sales staff, they expanded the footprint. We were paying to grow the audience, and it wasn't a winning formula in all the cities. Not every city is created equal. It's funny, like Asheville, North Carolina can make just as much money as Greenville, South Carolina, or Charleston, South Carolina, or Raleigh, North Carolina. It's a much smaller city in a way, but the pride and place in that community drives the ad dollars to be just as impactful as a much larger city. Lakeland, Florida is the same way. They're punching above their weight as a community, and there's investment from the community impact brands that makes that a viable, profitable product. Going to the West Coast, to San Diego and Sacramento and Seattle and Portland, the operating costs were higher. Hiring the sales talent was higher, the editorial talent was higher, but the markets were bigger. And so penetrating through, you're going through an ad agency instead of a local buyer a lot of times. And just the time horizon to become profitable just took a lot longer. AI changes the game. Now we launch a seed market. I can turn on a city anywhere. Does a few things for me. Domain health and deliverability, building that reputation slower, getting it going. I'm delivering every single day. I've got a product. People are engaging with it. Healthy list. Wow. Over a few months, that list grew to 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 subscribers. Awesome. We've got self-serve advertising revenue. This goes to some of the other things that 6am's doing. Our own self-serve ad platform, the ability to pull in national advertisers that some of that you would typically see in a 1440 or Morning Brew, those are able to come in and backfill. And so now I have 10,000 subs. I'm doing over 5,000 a month in revenue. All right, great. That newsletter today is a $60,000 to $100,000 a year product. Well, what do? I add a editorial staff person and sales talent. Now it goes from a $100,000 a year product to a $1 million a year product. So the importance of the humans come into the mix dramatically drives up the revenue potential in that market. But what the AI is doing is, if I go into 1,000 cities, it's going to surface the 20 that I should put talent in faster. And so, damn, okay, now rather than making bets, I don't have to make a bet anymore. I did product market fit. I got validation in the markets, and here we go. And so that's the big win and opportunity with it. And at the same time, we believe that we can also make those markets really profitable by themselves. And hey, with AI, the cost to deliver that newsletter is really small. And $5,000 a month in a market like that's pretty damn profitable. So that's really kind of the path. And that's why we look at them as seed. We planted a seed in these markets. They're going to grow and go on that journey for us, which goes seed stage market, launch, where we start bringing resources. Growth is a next set of resources, and a profit market for us is really, hey, we're doing 800 to 1.2 million a year. It has at least a full-time dedicated editorial person, a full-time salesperson, and then we add other product lines into those markets as they move up funnel for us.
That's so cool. And in the early stage, like that sort of seed or pre-seed stage where you're getting from 0 to 5,000 subscribers, how much time, like how much human time is actually involved on like a week-to-week basis? I know there's like a bunch of stuff up front, right? Like you've got the editorial like framework that the AI is going into, you've got all this stuff, but like actual like human sort of like thinking about that one place.
In a way, we've done 8-9 years worth of diligence on what's right. Right. So we've got a massive amount of data that says what's right. With AI, we're able to take our data, evaluate the market, determine sources, audience, product mix, things that are gonna that we know are gonna win. Like we just know there's enough data that says this is gonna work here if we set it up just like this. Part of what Matthew created, which is genius, is here's the parameters, here's the prompting, and the AI agents that get you to do all that other crap in the beginning, that work that's just tedious. You plug in set of parameters, hit go, 3 weeks, it learns, it does its thing, it proves itself out, a little bit of QA, and it's live. So, maybe we're spending 5 to 10 minutes with an overseas support person to make sure that all the sources are validated correctly. And then we're doing a little bit of mild QA for a period of time to make sure that that content's accurate and good. And that's all we need to do. That's it. It's done. The audience development engine is created. All we need to do is just say new market, new market, new market, new market. So yeah, the human work is, I don't know, 30 minutes total, maybe. And we're able to outsource a lot of that part of the work to someone overseas. And we've got some great talent overseas that is, a third of the cost of our US based folks. It allows our team to focus on the higher value opportunities. And we're spinning up markets following this playbook that we've established. And yeah, it's easy. Now then the question becomes, tracking that, which is all in automated dashboards and databases and stuff that tells us how it's performing, what's working, what's not, compares all of the markets against each other, and it says, hey, it's really time for you to take this to the next level.
So my big takeaway is I would be absolutely terrified if I was in the local newsletter space, and I'm not in the local newsletter space, and I'm a little terrified of you guys because of what you're doing. I'm curious, what would you say to somebody who says, I live in a great community, I want to start a local newsletter right now? Like, would you recommend they do that, or do they just give up?
Maybe they should talk to us because we might be interested in an exit path for them. However, I do think that there's a lot of opportunity locally for a person who wants to create a local newsletter if they're willing to make the investment correctly and they
Do you
have
mean time or money or both?
both and time, money, and content. So we don't cover politics, crime and punishment. We're not going to the city council meetings. I saw a great article the other day from a legacy journalistic organization that highlighted something I think the reality is that going forward, we anticipate that local TV broadcast, like linear TV, morning TV shows, evening TV shows, and print newspaper are going to be like, what do you got? 2 to 5 years, maybe if it lasts that long. And so as that goes away, who covers the stuff going on in the community? And there's this whole like influencer marketing concept. There's influencers around food and all these other food is maybe one of the food and beauty. Like everyone can get on board and understand that. But there's also a lot of people who are the influencer that loves doing the local investigative reporting. I don't necessarily need to have or rely on, and we're building our product so we don't rely on local news outlets. I don't want to rely on something that I think is going to go away. We want to rely on other relationships. And so how do you partner with, incentivize, collaborate with the future state creator economy in a market where, maybe there's just a badass blogger, Insta influencer who covers local politics. And that's awesome. That person oftentimes has a bigger following and is more relevant than the local journalist who's doing the same thing but is held back by their organization. And so their content's behind a paywall. Their content might be amazing, but it's only seen by like the 500 people that are paying to get there. So I think as the creator economy evolves more, people need a distribution channel to reach more engaged eyeballs. And we fit a good void to like become that partner with a lot of folks. And there's ways that we can align, partner, compensate, collaborate to make sure that we fit into the ecosystem correctly. But you have to build a foundation first. We're building the foundation. We can bring lots more folks to the table to tackle other verticals and shit like that as we go forward.
I guess especially the AI stuff, it lends itself very well in its current iteration to like text-based stuff, right? Like it's like the perfect sweet spot for newsletters right now. Are you also exploring or starting to think about like other forms of media, podcasts, YouTube, stuff like that?
Yes. And without totally sharing the plan on this, because I think we have a pretty unique approach. Local morning TV newscast and evening newscast won't exist, like in the current way that we see it today. So how do you get to a point where you have it? And people also just don't want to hear a lot of the crap that's being parsed through legacy channels. Like, I don't care about the national article about the bear that chased some lady down a running trail in Montana when I live in Miami, Florida. Like, it's just not relevant to me, but they're aggregating national news to just fill a void. And so, how do you create enough content that people care about locally, where they can maybe opt out of caring or hearing about any politics or whatever, because they just don't want that. So, if you can customize the content people want to consume and you have a database of that content can become audio, it can become video, and there's no reason why we don't have an AI avatar providing you the morning news in a 2 to 5 minute segment every day on 20 different platforms. Like, so if we build the foundation correctly, we then quite candidly are the replacement for or competitor for any existing local TV or newspaper in any community. And it's not that we're going to necessarily do the investigative journalism or those parts. There is a different set of folks that need to solve that equation, but we can add value and be part of maybe the morning streaming thing. So when you hop onto YouTube TV and it's predetermined what stuff you want to see this morning, we're part of that feed. And so I think that if you look at kind of a path, that's maybe where we go. And it helps to protect and be defensible against evolution, maybe in the inbox over the years. It diversifies your distribution points of that content because all that other stuff is rented land. And so we want to make sure that we're optimized to move with technology, and be able to put our content anywhere. So if you have the right database and know your audience and know your content and you can geographically parse it out, I think you're positioned to thrive.
Super interesting. I hear you talking about this, and I talk to a bunch of newsletter operators, right? And I don't think I know any who are doing or attempting to do even like 25% of what you guys are currently working on. And then on top of that, you've got this newsletter studio stuff that you're working on, right? Like newsletters as a service, basically. And you have a bunch of other stuff that you're doing as well, like on top of everything we're already talking about. Like, where does that fit into like the strategy? Like where you're like, okay, we have a bunch of like really difficult stuff to go and do over here. Like let's also add in this other stuff. Like how did this happen? Basically, I guess. Like what's like the pull them together for me.
Advertiser demand. So one of the things that's interesting, folks like Axios HQ have created great tools that are really maybe more leaning internal corporate comms, and maybe as more of a core use case. You have other folks who are helping create tools to build newsletters for whatever. Because of how we've grown, we have amazing relationships with local and regional and national healthcare systems, financial institutions, travel and tourism organizations, etc. And so they currently are going and they have an ad agency and they pay a ton of money to the ad agency to build all this content. Then it needs to be paid to be distributed. Well, when in the newsletter space, this is almost true for everybody, is someone comes to you and they want to buy an ad, and guess what? We create the ad and place the ad. We're already doing the creative and the distribution. And so naturally, in a lot of these conversations, we're seeing it a lot in real estate and healthcare. Hey, we own this master plan community in some part of the country. We have this captive audience of 20,000 people are in this region or bid district or whatever, and we want to be able to communicate with them. Well, we want to add value about the community, and we want to push our own messaging, and we'd love it to come from a third party source. So either that community is going to hire a marketing person to do all the work. So I'm going to go pay, all in 75 to $150,000 a year, that person plus the resources and skills to do all this stuff. Or they just say, hey, you guys are right here in our backyard. You're already creating awesome content, city guides, all sorts of stuff that supports. We need a white labeled solution for our community. Can you take and parse in your content plus the news and information we want to share with our community? And we go, yeah. And oh, by the way, it's going to cost you half what it costed to have that one person that you needed to hire. You don't need to do any work at all whatsoever. And we're going to either white label deliver you the HTML to distribute to your list, and or we're going to do that, and you can pay to send it through our list, and you own the content and you can put it wherever the hell else you want to. And so while a lot of folks today engage and they have to go through all those levers, agency relationship, building the content with that video production house, paying for the distribution, we're doing it all for like way cheaper. That's the opportunity. And then they actually own their own product in that mix too. So we're seeing a lot of inbound inquiries for that. And so because we have the team that's amazing at creating content, we already have the infrastructure for packaging and distribution. It's a very, very simple play for us to do that brand lift through our newsletter studio or newsletters as a service side of the business. And that's growing materially.
I'm curious, is so you have the newsletter as a service side. You're clearly growing in a ton of different cities. What is the thing that's working the best right now to grow a local newsletter?
What's working best to grow a local newsletter? I think it's reliance on the data and the history and what we know has worked really, really well in our markets. I think we have a unique advantage over most folks. We started around the same time. I think the Skim existed and the Charlotte Agenda started, and like the Hustle and Morning Brew and all of them were just coming. Everything was just kind of coming out of the ground. I mean, we literally started this as a product innovation at the beginning of 2016 under my business partner's family business, Community Journals in Greenville, South Carolina. And we built the product from day one to be different from traditional local media. No politics, no crime and punishment, no divisive topics. How do you get people to spend their time, talent, and treasure locally? Economic impact. How do we move the needle differently? How do you create a product that people want to consume? And so differentiating our approach and then learning over the years and years, what worked, what didn't work, how to be different, how to be independent, how to live in and be and play our part in the ecosystem with other media brands has really set us up to be successful today. And so I think a lot of folks have a really hard time starting something because they're either too rooted in a legacy journalism mindset or they are a legacy outlet. And it's, driving a speedboat is a lot easier than turning the Titanic. And so getting that buy-in, while it's super important, and even leadership and even some of the folks who are younger who've come into those organizations know that it needs to happen. I mean, I worked in Fortune 500 company before in manufacturing. If I wanted to move a machine from this part of the building to that part of the building, it took a year. And like it was the simplest task. Like we just want to move this. And so a lot of folks are struggling with that when it comes to launching and building local newsletters. And then the other part is people haven't made the newsletter the product. And so they're building I love to write about this. And so I'm going to write about this. Well, that's great. Well, how are you going to grow the audience and how are you going to monetize it? And so they're going after a passion play. And then the other is if you're a legacy and you have a big without naming names, a big broadcast company or a big newspaper organization. And I have maybe 2 million subscribers, I think. But when I actually go and clean the list that hasn't been cleaned in 10 years, I might have like 100,000 active engaged subscribers. And my newsletter product is a feed of like who got shot last night. And it's not something that resonates with the audience. So it's not designed to be engaged with. So lots of folks want to start a thing, but they haven't truly done the homework or made the investment in how am I going to grow engaged audience? How am I going to monetize it? What's the LTV going to look like? Is this going to be a viable, sustainable business? And so what you're starting to see today is the churn. As Beehive popped up and as lots of other newsletters people came to the table and wanted to create a thing, they're reading the shiny like, wow, Naptown Scoop, Ryan Snedden's freaking awesome. That kid deserves so much respect. And like, he started that young, he built the thing, he's making a ton of money in one city. He went all in, like he put all that effort in. And if you're not willing to go that far or farther, and even if you do that, there's burnout. You can only do this thing like by yourself. If you're trying to produce the content, do the sales, do the revenue fulfillment, all those things, you're going to drop. And so you're seeing it. I mean, we get asked every single week, sometimes every day, to buy or acquire someone's newsletter because they started, they worked at it, they hustled, they maybe gave up some other things in their lives to try to create it. They haven't learned and taken advantage of AI and some of the tools out there. And so they're trying to slap together something or chase a dream. It is not easy. I mean, we just wrote a whole thing about how hard it was for us as a business where we've grown and have a lot of resources. And it is not easy to do. So it depends. Are you doing it as a passion project? Are you doing it as a lifestyle brand? Are you doing it because you want to exit? And I think a lot of people think that they want to exit and sell it to somebody. But if I built my lifestyle brand, and even if my company's doing, let's say it's doing $100,000 a year in revenue, my newsletter, and I think I'm doing awesome, but I'm also having to go to all these events and do all these things. And so really I'm only making 20 grand profit. And then they come and they're like, hey, do you want to buy it? And I'm like, well, you got, all right, great. You got 25,000 subscribers and you're throwing off 20 grand a year in revenue. I know that when you leave, since you're the only salesperson, I'm going to see a huge cut in revenue. So maybe I can count on 50 grand coming in next year. And you have this subscriber base, which, okay, you got 25,000 subscribers. Let's do the homework. How many are actually opening? How many are actually clicking? All right. So there's 8,000 subscribers in here that I care about. And you want me to buy your company for $250,000? I mean, I'll pay you 50 cents per active subscriber. And maybe there's a little additional fluff for the revenue potential. But like, I think people don't understand, like, until you get to a certain scale, all these newsletters, I mean, if you're doing under $100,000 annually in revenue and your list's not massively huge or it's not recurring guaranteed revenue that's going to stay after you go, and if it doesn't align with your buyer's interests, there's not a big exit for you. And so I think people just need to think about that part. And I don't think enough people talk about it or dig into like, I'm here today. Where am I in 3 years with this product and opportunity? And so should I be investing more into it or do I need to move on? That's just the reality of like entrepreneurship. And not everyone that goes into newsletters is doing it with the full like EOS mindset. So like there's just some lessons learned there.
You say EOS. Do you follow that internally, like pretty structured then? Because I'm trying to like I'm thinking we do a lot less than you at Sparkloop, and it's like we struggle to keep like an overview and like add in new stuff all the time. Like it gets pretty hectic and pretty crazy. Like how do you like just execute all this stuff at the same time? Like what have you learned over the last couple of years?
I'd love to lie and tell you that we had it like so organized and like we knew our priorities and we like did a thing and tackled it and did the next thing. We've been talking about it a lot lately because there's a lot of scope creep, especially like where we're at today. And it can be true for anybody at any stage. We've had, Great idea, great idea, great idea. Let's go build this real estate newsletter or go build this whatever. I can't tell you how many projects we've built and kept too long and wasted a ton of people's time on. We've gotten way better now at testing things quickly, doing smaller micro beta tests that don't require every single person in the organization to be involved. Okay, that worked, that didn't work. Go shoot it out back because like stop wasting money on it, stop wasting time. How do you do it as a low cost test? And then AARs, like after action reports, like what did you learn from it? Was it a good idea? Do we need to do that again? Are we doubling down? Are we doing that again next year? So a lot of stuff we'll test now is like campaign based or like time bound. Like, okay, hey, this sales initiative, we're going to run it in July of this year. See how it does. If it's worth it, we'll plan for it next year and then build a more robust marketing strategy around it. It's a lot of this test it, try it, learn it fast. If it does or doesn't work, you kill it and move on. But certain things stick. And then I think as you take more shots on goal, you start to learn faster which ones are going to work and which ones aren't. And I think that just time does a lot of that. And then listening to stuff like this. I mean, there's a lot more folks sharing thought leadership in the newsletter industry today than there was 10 years ago, like probably 100, like 1,000% more. And so folks have a greater opportunity to get their foot in the door and grow and learn and move the ball faster. But again, a lot of them don't actually consume it all. And if you don't, and you're just kind of hoping and praying, it's hard.
That's a good point. There is a lot out there. I'm curious what you would do if you had to start over today. What's one thing you think you would do different in, kind of starting this business?
Changing the prioritization of what we go after. In the beginning, we tried to grow like fully organically,
Mhm.
based off of our pre-existing relationships with my business partner's family media company. I think we came in with about like 5,000 business subscribers initially. Over time, we learned that our core audience was actually more female leaning and some other stuff, but like we didn't invest in the audience. We also didn't have a lot of money to invest in the audience or anything like that. And so we kind of just thought that this slow rolled organic growth was going to allow us to get to some much bigger place. And it wasn't the reality. And then we started taking this playbook and saying, hey, we need to go hire. Well, actually, we initially, it was like 2 editors and a managing editor and a salesperson and organic audience growth. That was backwards. Now it's market, test, seed, like get a thing planted. Is it working? Is it growing? Don't spend really much money. Does it get to a certain point? We need to put money to grow that audience. I don't have an audience, I can't make money off of it. So if I hire a salesperson and I don't have an audience for them to sell, the salesperson's not going to stick around. So we kind of like have restructured things a little bit more to be intentional around the audience development faster, and establishing stronger multi month, quarter, year partnerships. So like if we go into a city, hey, new market, we're turning it from a seed product to a core. Let's go get a bank that's on board on a multi-year annual contract, give them additional value add in the beginning, but I know I'm locked in and I have revenue and sustainability versus just like getting some small little contracts and like hoping it's going to cover cost. Those have been interesting lessons learned in the process. If you don't make money, it's not going to be sustainable, right? And so I'll give a quick thing that I love that Carmen Starnes, who's our director of revenue operations, helped to visualize well. And you have this funnel. Vanity metrics matter to get attention. How many subscribers do you have? Well, that's great. I got a million subscribers. That's awesome. Well, the next level is I need to actually get them to buy something. So how many impressions and what's my open rate? Like, okay, 60% open rate, 600,000 impressions, got my attention. I made my first buy. Well, if you want to have a sustaining business, they need to come back. So the bottom of that funnel is CTR. And we've backed out to be able to kind of optimize what CTR for the newsletter yields on average a CTR on the ad units, that will drive renewal. And so if we optimize, like, hey, if I have 1 million subscribers and a 60% open rate and a 13 to 15% CTR, well, then my ads are probably going to perform, and I'm probably going to I'm going to get their attention, get the first buy, and get the second buy. And that second buy typically comes at a higher dollar value and a longer term contract. And that's been a really interesting thing that we've learned over time. And so to that end, starting, you optimize for that, right? And that sets up maybe a more sustainable path.
And so take me to the top of that funnel. Are those people coming from, is it mostly Facebook ads? Are you guys going out and acquiring lists in markets? Are you boots on the ground? Like, how are you mentioned you think it's so important to make the investment. That's something you would have done at the beginning. How are you guys doing that?
Every way you can. In the beginning, actually, for like the first 3 years of our existence, it was all organic, which was not very smart, to be solely organic.
What do you mean organic? Like not paid at all? You were just waiting for people to find you via SEO?
Yeah. Well, so we've actually never, uh, in the beginning, we didn't have a website. And so we weren't even using SEO. It was like someone send this newsletter to the next person. I mean, it was that organic.
Do things that don't scale, right?
It scales, but not fast enough to catch up with your expense line.
Right.
Great qualified audience. We have some people who signed up for our newsletters over 9 years ago who are still receiving and actively engaged today,
That's awesome.
which is huge for the for validation of the brand. But like in local markets, there's a lot of different things you can do. We did co-reg with events. We did strategic partnerships with folks. We would work with a real estate company, because on a local level, realtors really want their prospective buyers to know what's going on in a market. So they would be signing up their prospective clients, or the whole entire real estate firm who's an advertiser wants all their realtors signed up. We would partner with children's museums and sports stadiums to do co-reg, double opt-in, or opt-out type structures, all that stuff. We still do some of that stuff on limited level. We got really good at Facebook lead ads, or Meta, over time, and we could scientifically control, like, hey, we know that we're picking up a subscriber at 20 cents to $1.20 range, and then we could kind of back out what the ECPL was on all that stuff. That became the primary engine, and then now we've kind of created some additional dev tools that make us more dangerous, and how we target and market and do different levels of cold outreach to get people to convert in. Hey, here's a product, are you interested in it? If you click here, you can become a subscriber. One click conversion. We hate double opt-in. I think that's kind of gotten old in a lot of ways. There's other ways to make sure that you have a qualified intent based person. Cleaning the shit out of the lists quickly is important so that your deliverability maintains high and those people stay. Otherwise, your whole entire efforts at the top of the funnel are useless.
Do you guys have a number? Like, I know some newsletters, right? It's like the metric is 4 opens in the first 2 weeks. Like, do you guys have something like that?
Varies. So based off of whether or not we're launching a new market, or it's a market that's been around for 3 years or 4 or 5 years, it's
Mhm.
a bit different. The faster you're applying spend or audience acquisition channels, especially if you're getting into, like, you're doing a lot of paid, you're working with a traffic grid, an audience builder, a spark loop, or whatever. I mean, whoever, all the different places that you have stuff coming through, the more you're throwing at it at the same time, the higher likelihood of some volatility happening. And so you want the churn process or the qualification process to be a lot faster. So if you're, like, in some instances, we're down as little as, like, I mean, we've done somewhere it's 2 days, 5 days, 7 days, and they're out. So if someone's real and they're participating, they're going to be participating pretty quickly. Like, you want to give someone a pass if they're on vacation, right? And they're, like, out this week, not reading their emails, but like 14 days, 21 days, long poll. Like, I mean, clean that list, because the worst thing you need to have happen is, which we've had happen and even still have happen these days, from time to time is get that list spun up. You're like, damn, I have like what we're having happen is I have advertisers paying and they want to start advertising in that city starting August 1st. And I just launched the market and I got 4 weeks and I really want to get to 10,000 subscribers before then. So we go all in after it and then we will go a little too hard. And then you find out, shit, the SPF records or some other DNS setting was off slightly. Or you find out that there was some spam complaints from one source or bot activity or something, and that little micro inflection point or two of them stack back to back, and then Google goes low, bad, and you're like, shit, now I got to recover the whole entire domain before I can keep going. And you see stuff like that happening, and it's real. And because I don't think people understand the importance of the deliverability and getting it right and how you grow that. Like when you drop your domain down to low or and you're at the bottom of the thing, I mean, getting back is totally out of your control in a lot of ways. And so we'll shoot the domain entirely and start all over. In those instances, migrate the highly engaged users over and go through that process. That deliverability and growth rate and top of funnel is super important. It's super important to use a diversity of sources, we believe. And we still run cohort analysis against all the different pathways, and some are good and some are bad. And sometimes it's not the same for every newsletter product or every geography. So I might work with audience builder or traffic grid, right, as a partner in a different city, and I work with them in one market, and then I work with them in another market, and the outcome's different, and it's different for a wild variety of reasons. But I did the same exact effort. Or I might use my own. I might be working and doing my own meta ads in this market and the same exact ads in another market. Two wildly different outcomes, and it has to do a lot with the markets themselves, the content, some bot activity, some person who's intentionally being malicious, that whatever, like all kinds of stuff happens that can mess up that growth process.
Are you guys implementing AI in your analysis to help with that? Because obviously that's sounds like a shitload of work for you guys to be doing to be doing kind of cohort analysis by platform on each newsletter.
We basically have a deliverability agent that we've created that tracks time periods and daily and drops straight into Slack. Here's all the markets. Here's the ones that you need to pay attention to for whatever reason. These ones are overperforming and these ones are underperforming. And you probably need to go take a look at that. And like it hits the inbox or it hits Slack like at a certain time every morning. And it pulls from a lot of different. So AI, read and learn from all these different places, give me some insights on deliverability, and our team can respond faster. And that's like the faster you can fix a problem, the less it's going to hurt your deliverability because stuff's going to come through. Like whether you want it to or not, there's a lot of great, reputable, awesome sources that can help you grow your audience. But there's also a lot of bad actors out there that take advantage of these tools and try to come in for their different scams and stuff. And you need to be acutely aware of what those are and how to respond and be willing to go in and manually clean your list. You know, hey, all right, I know that yes, something happened yesterday. What was that? What changed in my list? And you're like, oh damn, I got 50 email addresses that somehow came in and they're all just a series of numbers and letters, clearly not a real email address, and it came in at roughly in this time, and which one of my acquisition tools was running at that time, and can I back it out and go, all right, here we go, this is what happened, and then manually purge, make sure it doesn't happen again. I mean, everyone's tech's evolving, and so is the sophisticated spam and bot attacks and stuff like that.
Are you guys using any off the shelf tools for that? Right. So if somebody's listening at home to like, hey, you can just go plug and play with this, and this helps quite a bit.
No, um, to be honest, I think we found like a lot of tools weren't optimized for us or our use case
Got it.
in many instances. So we just built, and because AI makes things really easy now, we know what flags matter most to us and we curate them together, and can create AI agents that tell us exactly what we need to do, and then we don't need those other tools. Now, we might sometimes lever or integrate one that is pulling this data, and then we parse it in. But I can't think of anyone specifically on the deliverability side right now that we're using that's not us going more native to certain sources, to get the outputs that we want. Some of the source, well, every tech is a little different. So they have all pros and cons, and so it's hard to get all the things you want from one person. And a lot of the tools are optimized maybe for more of a marketing company than they are like a news publisher and stuff. So there's different things, um, that make one thing better than another, or none of them better.
Is there anything where you're like, oh, like they should have asked me about this, or this is like super exciting, people aren't talking about it enough? Like any one thing where you're like, we should have hit on this and we didn't.
Louis, you got to ask that question at the beginning so we look smarter before we even get on.
A lot of folks talk about like owning your audience and having this relationship with them. There's also this like evolution in AI. And so, what are you going to do to differentiate yourself from the others down the road? And if you're just using AI to curate information and repackage it and deliver it, I think this also is an Adam Ryan thing. Like Gemini's just going to summarize that in the top of your inbox, or they're going to move you down in the fold. And so, what strategic relationships can you establish? What level of personalization, recommendation, added value that optimizes for GEO, or training the LLM models to make sure that you're relevant in their outputs? I think thinking forward that way, like while the newsletter is its thing, like, are you really optimizing to be not made extinct in a couple of years? Like, because the last thing you want to do is spend your time and effort building something awesome only for one platform to change, and then you're not viable anymore. And I think folks are seeing that. I mean, even in just the changes we're seeing around deliverability, I think this past year it really highlighted bullshit, like newsletters that were like kind of built on fake vanity metrics. And when it comes down to it, and like, man, I was on Beehive and I thought I was great and I had built this audience, and all of a sudden my open rates went to crap and the click-through rate went to crap, and like it wasn't Beehive. And like you see all these people chattering about like, well, the ESP screwed me over. No, you just had a really crappy list, and Google and Yahoo and everybody else just decided to tell you the truth. And now you have to fix and build a healthier list. So I think this big focus on deliverability, list health, true engagement, and making connections with your reader with content that's going to resonate and make you be differentiated from what AI and Google or whomever can do on their own, will be very important for longevity. And thinking about that sooner rather than later and building your roadmap, is paramount.
Very cool. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. Do you have anything that you want to plug for people? Anywhere people should go follow you on LinkedIn, socials?
6amcity.com. We just gave our site a little bit of a brand refresh to showcase a lot of the different projects, initiatives, priorities that we're working on, and the markets that we're in. Obviously, we always love when people subscribe and provide feedback. The best way to improve your product is to have someone tell you that it sucks. So feedback is always welcomed, especially as we're going through some big innovations and evolutions. We are actively seeking strategic partnerships, with other materially larger brands and data sources, a million plus subscribers, unique data sets that might be applicable to local communities, M&A activity, profitable newsletter products or newsletter adjacent products that might be accretive to our business, and our newsletter studio or newsletters as a service side of the business. We are pretty good at the building newsletters for folks. And if we have the opportunity to help someone get to the next level, we're here and our doors are open for that. All of those things and more are elevated on 6amcity.com. And the last thing I'll share is we have created a free Slack community or behind the newsletter that is available on our site for anyone in this ecosystem. And we're about to launch a resource of all of the different things that exist in the newsletter ecosystem and summarize what they are by category to drive people to those resources. We had a hard time finding a resource hub like that, and ours won't be perfect out the gate, but we're gonna, there's hundreds of resources in it to begin with. Should come out the second week of August. And then hopefully we can build on that and continue to point people towards resources to help them grow their businesses.
Nice.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Ryan.
Definitely appreciate the time. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks.